Hi, I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Kiernan Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
This seat taken.
Hey, Kiernan.
Hey, Ryan, have you ever considered doing that top really slow since, I edit at double time? Because then it will sound normal.
No, I thought you were editing like triple time now.
No, I'm doing double time. I want to hear if triple time, you're not going to catch all the awkward pauses.
I don't know. I think at some point we're going to be on video, and it's going to be a different situation.
Pushing this video so hard. Is the crowd really clamoring for that?
They are. They want to see what we look like and how we interact with each other, and if we have good enough internet, we might be able to give it to them.
Well, we've got a review coming up that tells us we got some firm feedback from sort of a Cornhusker 55 sort of character that we got up on the reviews now.
Oh, is it a good review?
No, Cornhusker 55 he's our troll. We haven't heard from him. He's actually coming due for a refresh because Apple only lets you post once and then you just have to keep changing it out. So he likes to come back every 3-4 months.
I appreciate that. I mean, return listeners are important.
Now, Ryan, today's episode, it ties directly to the reviews, which, by the way, folks, if you're listening and you're a supporter of Out of Office, I mean, not a financial supporter because we have no way for you to do that, but maybe that'll come when we launch video. And it sure would be swell for you to give us a 5-star review or wherever you listen and, write in ideas and real feedback. We read them all. And today's episode actually came from a listener suggestion.
Yeah, this has been suggested by multiple listeners at this point. People are desperate, Kiernan. They're desperate to hear about how you travel with children. And up until this point, when I can tell you just haven't traveled with children, and now you have.
Yeah, well, listen, here's the thing. I didn't want to jump into traveling with children without having experienced it in several different formats and times. I've traveled with one child as an infant, and then all the way straight through to now a 5-year-old. And then right behind him, we now have from an infant to 3.5-year-old. And then we did the big double trip with a big plane ride and big cruise ship off to Alaska, which doesn't have all the modern conveniences. I mean, it has modern convenience. It's not nowhere, but yeah. I felt like I needed to get I needed to do deep research in order to come on feeling confident as an expert in traveling with children. And I got to tell you, I've got a great outline here full of tips. And I think even a seasoned traveler with children is going to pick up one or two things that they thought, you know what, I've never thought of that. And next time I'm going to change how I do it.
And then I'm going to helpfully step in as the single gay man with no children to offer sort of my advice and thoughts about kids in public at various stages as well.
I mean, first of all, you're coming out on the show now. Episode 206, we're finally revealing this on the show. I think major doings here, major news. Listen, I do think a lot of what I have to recount is going to sound like I really don't like kids, and I'm going to preempt that with a couple of points. And I mean, for those who love screaming children on airplanes, God bless you. I don't think Ryan or I either fall in that category. One, a single gay man, and one married with children.
So that I just got these Apple EarPods Max, the big over the head ones, and the noise cancellation of those on an airplane is like nothing I've ever experienced.
Really, unbelievable.
Yeah, you can't even hear like the annoying like announcements if you put them on. You just like vanish into like a puddle of just silence or just music or, I often just listen to old episodes of Out of Office.
Primarily your own episodes, I'm guessing. And of course, doesn't it freak you out at all not to be able to get updates or know if there's an emergency? That would really terrify me.
I think if there's an emergency, people around you their behavior would change. You would notice that.
Okay, so you don't sink into a puddle. You got a puddle with open eyes.
Yeah.
All right, so you stay aware. Now,
so that's my rec for traveling with children. Just really good noise canceling.
I'm just surprised you blew the review of the new AirPods up here. You could have saved it for the last stop. And I'm looking at the outline. He's working on the last stop, folks. He doesn't have it quite cooked yet, but he knows I'm going to be talking a lot this episode, so it's going to be in there. But Ryan, speaking of your flight patterns and your routines, we do have to ask for Judy, your mom. You know, you left her back here in the United States. She's always worried about where you might be and what shenanigans you might be up to. I'm often worried about that too. We've all seen the video of you getting arrested. so so Ryan, for Judy, for the Judy alert, where are you right now?
I'm actually in Bogota. So I'm hanging
Kind of
out
your home base.
in my sort of home base. But my friend Diego from Mexico City got in last night, and we're about to go on like a 10-day little tour of Colombia. So we're gonna pop over to Medellin, and then
Oh, that's great.
we're gonna pop over to Cartagena and Baru. And we're finally in Medellin. We're finally going to get to go to that big rock everybody always talks about.
You
That's
got to
like
go
out
to the
by
big
lake.
rock, and you've
Yeah.
been there for weeks and not done that.
I know. So now but you know, what's great about having somebody visit you in a place that you've spent a lot of time is it kind of forces you to do the other things you haven't done yet. So like,
Well, you
I'm
know,
like, all
you
right.
guys might want to swing back to Transylvania because you still haven't done that Bram Stoker Castle, the one thing to do in Transylvania when you were there for weeks.
Reason to go back.
Reason to go back with Diego. Well, I'm glad that's fun. Are you? Is this going to be a working vacation? Or are you taking a proper vacation?
I am taking a Friday off to do the day trip out to the Big Rock. But otherwise, you know me, Kieran, I can't. See, I'm too busy to stop working.
The boss has Friday off. Now, Ryan, before we jump into the topic at hand of traveling with children, I think you know I am off in about a week to go to for a week to London with my mother. I'm super excited. My mom's first trip abroad.
Yeah, afterwards we can have her on and she can talk about traveling with her child.
I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen. But I texted you in a panic last night because I'm so embarrassed. I got internet scammed last night in working on setting up this trip. I felt like such a rube. And I hear, you know, now I'm 206 episodes into a travel podcast and still the scammers got me.
And then how did they get you?
It seemed like you were somewhat familiar with what happened. So,
yes, I am.
Okay, so basically a year ago, England launched this new form that even Americans have to fill out. So you used to be able to just hop on a plane to England. You didn't have to get a visa or anything, and you were good to go. But now you have to get this thing called an ETA. And an ETA is basically a picture of your passport. You have to take a separate picture, and then you got to give a little bit of information. And then my understanding is they'll turn it right around and you get pre-approved, and it's supposed to make passing through immigration go faster. But you have to have it. You can't get there and then get it. You have to have it in hand.
So if you fly all the way to London and you don't have it, they just turn you away.
I'd be interested if anybody has had that happen. Tell us.
Maybe they're checking
at gmail.com.
Well, you'll have to tell us
what happened.
You'll have to tell us if they're checking before you board.
I'm very curious to see that, and I will absolutely report that back. So last night, it's supposed to get turned around within 72 hours. So I'm not up against the clock on this, but I was like, you know what? Let's get this in nice and early because it lasts for 6 months. Great. And I was in a rush and I was like, you know what? I've got like 20 minutes. So let me just put it in for me and mom. And I Google, UK travel new visa, because I didn't know it was called an ETA for Americans or whatever, some combination of words. And do you know, instead of clicking on a UK.gov official website, I went to it was called like IMI Help or something like that. And
are you a boomer? All of a sudden, did this happen?
It looked like UK.gov. It had a beautiful form that looked very modern, very smooth. It looked exactly like the real one. And I got all the way through and I was kind of shocked. I was like, boy, $116 is pretty steep for this, but what choice do you have? You're going to just throw money away because you're traveling. So I clicked the link and then I looked up at the URL and just said, oh, what have I done? And so a sleepless night. I mean, you know me, I hate losing $1. So 115 in addition was galling. Oh. And I'm looking at the credit card. Can we put an alert on it? Of course, they cash that right away. I'm reading all the Reddit boards of all these rubes, my fellow rubes who have fallen for this thing. And it is, I'm only sharing it here because I feel that I can do a public service from this platform to first off, don't rush. These things, you're giving away important information. You're giving away your birthday, your address, your phone number, your visa number, or not your passport number. I mean, you're giving away a lot of information, and then you're giving your credit card number. I mean, I just was so upset. And so all I could think to do was to go to, IME Help. I feel like I should report the actual name of the damn thing. Hold on. IME Assist. IME Assist. So I looked, and of course, IME Assist has a contact thing, and I was like, nobody's ever going to get back to me off this. And of course, all the people on Reddit are like, you never get any money back. But I thought, what could it hurt? So I wrote them. I said, I didn't mean to use your service. I'm 80 years old. And please cancel and return my $116. And I have to say, I was my hands were sweating after a sleepless night. I looked at my phone. I had an email back from them, and do you know they refunded all but $11 US. And frankly, I feel better now than if I hadn't fallen for the scam in the beginning. The idea of getting that money back.
What was the justification for keeping the $11?
It was simply because I had actually clicked the pay button, which put us in a contract. But luckily, I realized what an idiot I was being, and I didn't upload any of the images they were asking for before I looked up at the URL. So because I hadn't completed the process, I qualified for the $105 return.
That's so funny. A couple years ago, Columbia has a form you're supposed to fill out, but they don't really take it that seriously. And before I knew that, I was Googling and I found the form, and I went to fill it out, and then it was like a $20 fee. And I'm like, that's really weird. I've never remembered paying the fee before. Mm-hmm. And then I looked and I realized, even though the website looked and felt like the government of Colombia, it was like a .co thing as opposed to a real.
I mean, it's incredibly sophisticated, and like again, I really do put it out there as if I would had I not been trying to do it late at night, not rushing, I think I would have caught it earlier. But the fact that the first 6 results in Google are all these scammy fake ones before you actually get down to the UK.gov is a real problem, and it's unfair to consumers, and I did not like that, and I fell for it. And I think it ended up happily, though. Ryan, knowing me better than most people, said you're going to be thinking about that $11 on your deathbed, which is fair enough. I'm still thinking of quarters that I dropped when I was a kid.
That's a scoopa. Gracias. No idea what's going on.
What are you? Where are you?
In my hotel.
We're trying to record a podcast here.
Well, I'm so glad that you got your $11 back. I bet that's going to make for a great souvenir.
No. I got $105 back.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm so glad that you got your $105 back.
You're happy that they got $11.
Yeah, I am happy that they got $11. I'm thinking about the math, and that might scale. It's not a bad little project. Out of office passport help.
You're right. That's not a bad idea.
Well, Kiernan, I think it's time for us to take off with these screaming children in tow.
Tell the cabin crew to shut them up.
Flight attendants, prepare for takeoff, please.
All right, Ryan. Well, we're here in the air surrounded by children, everybody's dream. So take out your what are they called? AirPods Max?
The AirPod Maxes, yeah.
The AirPod Maxes. Are you using them right now?
No, because there's a delay. I don't really use them for calls or anything.
Okay, and they're sort of Princess Leia-y.
They're ridiculous.
Yeah,
they're huge.
Big boys.
And
they're
bigger.
What allows them to have the cancellation.
Yeah. Well, they're bigger than all their competitors too. So it's like everyone knows you're wearing these like ridiculously everything about it headphones, and that I don't like about it. Like, but yeah, they're cool. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's start with the obvious question, which is I want to ask: have you ever traveled with a child besides when you were a child?
No.
Okay.
No.
So this is going to be new territory for you. Yeah. But so let's ask, what is your general attitude towards children?
The quiet ones are great. I don't mind them. They seem fine. I don't think they belong in fine dining restaurants, but otherwise.
I'm gonna touch on that. Give up those fine dining dreams. I'm a firm believer that we should be cordoning off children and not ruining everyone else's time. And I think that's a core thread that you're gonna see pulled through this.
I'm going out to eat tonight at a restaurant, and on the RSVP form, the registration form, it said this is an experience for folks over 16, and no one under 16 will be admitted. And I'm like, no, that's a fancy restaurant.
Well, okay. To begin with, I have to say I entered into fatherhood with a lot of trepidation about this exact problem, which is I do not like to be the center of attention when traveling, especially negative attention. And so I've always dreaded the idea of having a screaming baby on any sort of transportation surrounded by non-children folks. And in a way, I was very helped by that by COVID, because Charlie was born and 6 weeks later, Charlie was born and about 6 months later, COVID hit, and so we actually got the chance to take him on mass travel just totally taken away from us for years. So I actually didn't even have to confront that decision.
Yeah, the timing was pretty good there.
But I do think that even so, and like we've lived this truly with Penelope too, is that I think that you've got to be careful right from the first choice of where you're going. I would say, adventurous travel. I have good friends who have said it's actually better to do it with a 0 to 1 year old than for a 1 to 3 year old. And that's because, an infant sleeps a lot of time, especially if you've trained them to sleep in a carrier, in a car seat. You actually can do more adventurous things with that young age. But as they get older and until they hit that kind of 6, 7 year old range, I have to think that you're going to choose something that's maybe a little more comfortable, maybe possibly closer to home, but at least not the high adventure. You're not hitchhiking with Junior. You're not going to Bhutan in all likelihood from the United States.
Yeah, that would be a big trip for somebody that.
And personally, I mean, you're already probably picking up. Generally speaking, I don't really like kids. I like kids I'm related to. I've always enjoyed my nieces and nephews. I love my own children. But generally speaking, a kid strikes up, even as a parent myself, I don't have a lot of sympathy. I'm kind of blaming the parents for not having sympathy for others.
Wow. That's to hear this coming from a parent.
Listen, it's a brave stance.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I feel like parents are more like, "Hey, we're raising the next generation, and you just got to deal with it," kind of attitude.
I do not bring that attitude into it.
But you know what I'm talking about, right?
Of course, I know what you're talking about. I feel like we've got all the people who are concerned about a falling birth rate and stuff. I feel that that's the argument you're trying to make.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I see it as a non-children's world, and I'm shoving children into it. So I feel that we're going to go through a list of kind of called out tips that I'm going to enumerate, and then I've got some follow-up advice underneath. And the first tip is that right from choosing your destination, it has to be based primarily on something I'm calling TTM, which is the time to meltdown. This is the amount of time that you, knowing your child better than others, can estimate that they can travel before they really go off the rails and start the total meltdown. Because the meltdown is the red alert scenario that it's the ticking time bomb that from the moment you take them out of their comfortable routine, you are approaching. And every child on earth has this meltdown potential.
And so when we see a kid, like a 2 or 3 year old, and they're just screaming like out of control, there's really nothing the parent can do. Is that
every child's different. I don't want to cast judgment. Now I'm taking a very nice welcoming tone. I don't want to cast judgment on what your child needs. But what I do know is that you, as the parent of that child, likely knew before you got in this scenario what was going to set them off.
But there's no switch or anything. So like it could scream for a while longer.
You're asking if children have a switch. I mean, you have met a child, right? I mean, you've got a godchildren.
I've got a godchildren. Yeah, I do.
You've met my children.
Yes.
Not too enthusiastically, if I remember. But
what am I supposed to do? You know, they don't have much to say. They haven't even been anywhere, you know?
Well, now they
at that
have,
point,
but
he
at that
didn't
point,
have a
they haven't.
passport. Yeah.
So here's the interesting thing about time to meltdown. In my own experience, the car time to meltdown might be different than the plane time to meltdown. And, you know, being on a boat or ferry or cruise ship time to meltdown might be different than a train time to meltdown. So when you're conceiving of your trip, you should investigate from what you know of your child, what are these approximate times to meltdown? And what can you do to get ahead of them? And then choose your destination based on literally that radius from your home where you live. If the time to meltdown on a plane is going to be 5 hours, well, you better not take a flight that is 8 hours long. Or you could mix and match. Maybe you should take a train part of that way because the time to meltdown there is going to be like 8 hours because they like the clickety clack and it puts them to sleep. And then you arrive at a destination, then you take a closer flight because the time to meltdown on the flight is less. So do you see what I'm saying? I think there's a mix and match to the time to meltdown. But time to meltdown is what I want you to remember because that's what the rest of these tips are fighting against.
I feel like this is something Google Flights could add as like a feature. You could select one child and it goes child time to meltdown, and then it would break the trip into those various sections.
It is such a good idea for an AI addition to something like an Alexa, where you know they're listening to you and your children in your home at all times. So
at all times,
AI will actually have a more accurate feeling about time to meltdown than many parents actually will.
It could announce like little Charlie about to melt down, and you're like, no, he's not. He's fine. And all of a sudden,
I love it. I think this is a great idea.
Yeah.
Now, there are ways, the good news for those who are parents who are feeling so discouraged about the time to meltdown, because I'm voicing a truth that they've known in their hearts, but they've never spoken aloud. There's lots of different tactics to extend the time to meltdown. Primarily, I think of this as food, videos, books, and lots of different little games and the tricks that I'm going to give you a little bit later on in the tips. But time to meltdown is not a set in stone thing. It varies by child. It varies by transportation. And you, traveler, have a lot of power to extend it.
All right. Time to meltdown.
And by the way, my favorite way to extend the time to meltdown is by adding an intermediate destination. So if you know the time to meltdown is going to be a certain amount of hours, then why don't you plan a stop that way onto the further destination? So, you know, it might take an extra day or two, but especially if you can add in an overnight, beautiful. Children love a night of actual sleep to reset the time to meltdown clock.
So the night's sleep is directly related to the time to meltdown clock.
Oh yeah, sleep is imperative, and of course, most
similar
travel,
to me actually. My time to meltdown.
It's true. Most children, their sleep. I mean, all of us, we all have sleep disrupted when we're traveling. You know, you're doing time zones, you're getting cancellations and delays, and there's lots of uncertainty.
Kids
and
don't know about time zones.
No, they don't know about time zones, but you know about time zones, and you can do things to help them kind of get into the groove.
Yeah. Okay.
So now, you know, I'm always very pro organization. I like checklists. I like lots of different like cubes and bundles and bags to keep things organized. And if you're a parent on the go, the second thing that you have to really understand is that you have to be organized very carefully and anticipating it, all based on the time to meltdown framework. So for babies, for like real babies, you're talking pacifiers, their favorite stuffies, blankets, books, things that crinkle, I think are like toys. They have these like crinkly paper and tissues and things that you can bring. I feel are acceptable within public. Nothing that jingles or jangles or plays an electronic song. I find that unacceptable.
Do you think it's okay for your kids to like, maybe be on a Avianca flight and be playing a video game without headphones?
I absolutely do not. I'm so glad you asked that. Now, does that come from a personal recent experience?
I sat next to a couple kids on a flight a couple weeks ago, and the parents were in first class, and the kids were in economy comfort with me.
Oh my God.
And they were playing
Monsters.
video games without headphones.
I mean, that's monstrous behavior.
I thought I put on my AirPod Maxes and I just let it go, So
I hate to jump ahead, but earphones are a very important aspect of traveling with children. And I even have a recommended headphone for your children that I want you to buy and bring with you. And it really builds goodwill for those around you, because I feel that if you saw those two children, first of all, the parents being in first class and the kids being back
they came back, and then the mom would like lean over me and have a conversation with the two kids. I was like, all right.
I mean, that I didn't even know. I thought that was like something from Home Alone 2 and not like something parents actually do.
Seems like something they do. Yeah.
That's shocking. Well, I'm going to get back to the earphones, but no, I find what you just described unforgivable. Another trick with babies is, frankly, and I experienced this when we took Penelope down to North Carolina. If you're nursing a baby, that is a great way. Most babies will nurse just to be comforted, even if they're not hungry. And frankly, you can nurse them most of the flight, and it will calm them because it's such an unfamiliar place that it can be very calming for the baby and for everybody. So that's like a
you
very
should not be
nursing.
You should not be nursing while driving, though.
No, I'm talking about planes primarily.
Okay,
but fair enough. Good point. I would say.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm just envisioning it.
I mean, out of the major modes of transportation, I would say train, yes. Ferry, boat, yes. Airplane, yes. Driving as passenger, no, because they can't be out of the car seat. But then ironically, on a plane that's like goes much faster in the air, you don't have to have them in a car seat. It's all very confusing.
Those car seats these days are incredible. They're like, when I was a kid, they were like a hunk of plastic.
Oh yeah, no. Like, these are like
you could throw a kid from 100 stories.
Yeah, they're like an Iron Man suit. And also, I would recommend bringing something like a baby Bjorn, which is one of those kind of harnesses where you can put the baby on you. Because then, if the baby needs to get up and needs to be walked up and down an aisle or just shown around, I've seen
the babies taking a walk.
You got to be able to walk. I'm not even going to speak in this episode about my feelings about how small airplane bathrooms are for parents. It is unacceptable. I don't think I've ever seen a design that is less parent friendly than trying to bring a 5-year-old into an airplane bathroom.
Yeah, those bathrooms are pretty small for a solo.
I mean, they're so teeny tiny. Anyway, so that's for true babies. Now, once you graduate into the slightly older kids, the category of electronics is extremely important. And the first tip here is you just got to drop all screen time restrictions that you've ever implemented. As far as I'm concerned, you're traveling, you're on vacation, just like how we don't usually eat out every meal of our lives, but when you're on vacation, you're eating out all the time. Let your kids eat out on the electronics. Get them the iPad, get them your iPhone, and just open those floodgates. Because if it keeps the child quiet, docile, happy, it makes it a nice vacation for them and for all of those around.
Alternatively, what about the Great Illustrated Classics version of, Crime and Punishment or something like that? Open their minds.
I mean, maybe for a 6-year-old Kiernan Schmidt, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I remember Oliver Twist very fondly on a long road trip.
Yeah.
But for most kids, you're a big reminder here: do not rely on any sort of internet. You've got a hard download. As many hours of video as that iPad can hold. And I would recommend a double download onto your personal iPhone so that you have a backup, whether you run out of battery, whether something goes wrong with the iPad, you drop it, the screen breaks. You have to have a backup, and preferably a backup for a backup. You got 2 adults traveling, you should both be downloading Daniel Tiger, Paw Patrol, Frozen, pick a classic, Little Mermaid, any of these. You've got to have...
Bluey?
Blue, absolutely Blue. Blue is a great suggestion because you can load it up and it's so, but I might be talking myself out of Bluey because Bluey's episodes are short. We're going for length. Length is very important for this video entertainment.
But don't
on
the
long
Blueys
travel.
my understanding is the Blueys kind of you can sort of just watch them in like a mush.
You
know?
can. That's true. It does mush. It does mush. And it's pretty addictive too. So you're right. You're right. I think Bluey counts. Now, you're also going to want to bring in an external battery, and not just one. You need an external battery for every single individual iPad and iPhone.
That is so many batteries.
It's a lot of batteries. I understand that you're skeptical, but think of the disastrous results if the iPad stops in the middle of an episode or a movie. This is not something that is fit for your fellow passengers.
I'm sorry. When I was 9 and we were flying to the Grand Canyon, we played for 4 hours. I Spy on my little eye. And it's not super exciting.
So
in the plane.
This is a perfect example. 2 children playing I Spy with my little eye allowed on an airplane or another place of transportation within earshot of adults. I mean, come on. After 5 minutes of that, I would be going crazy. I'd just be like, it's green. It's the one fucking green thing over there. Okay, let's just put this to rest. Everybody put your earphones on and watch Mickey Mouse dance. Do you know, I didn't really know how much of a temper I had until I had children. Did you know I have a bad temper?
I've only seen you angry a couple times at work.
Yeah, I've been pretty angry at work from time to time, and every once in a while at you. It's pretty satisfying, but I've learned to control it. Catherine pointed out I ball my fist really tight. It's like
God,
I know it's a little scary. Anyway, so you got the external batteries. Oh, and by the way, don't forget to charge those batteries before you get on. Just having them isn't enough. And many of the batteries, the substantial batteries, I'm going to link to one in the show notes that I like, which is made by a company called Anker, Anker. These can take several hours because they're substantial batteries, because you're going to want like 40, 50 hours worth of battery on your body.
Yes, it sounds like you want as many hours as batteries you can get.
Now, this is where we get to the headphones, because, of course, headphones are an extremely important part of these devices and taking in all this entertainment. And now, Ryan, that's why it was so interesting that you brought it up, because, there's very little that's more annoying in the world than hearing video game sounds or a TV show where it's like it's just distant enough that it's tinny and grating. When Catherine and I pulled out the separate, fully charged earphones for both of our children, I kid you not one, but 2 flight attendants stopped at our row and said, "Thank you for bringing them headphones." I can't tell you how often parents don't do that.
Wow.
Because children can't have the regular earbuds in their ear, Ryan. They need something akin to what you have, these giant Princess Leia's. So I have a great one that I recommend. Super battery life, incredibly reliable, easy to hook up on Bluetooth. They're from a company called Puro Sound, Puro. Again, I will link in the show notes. All of your fellow passengers will thank you.
And they're made for kids?
They are made for kids. They come in vibrant colors. My children have worn them for many, many hours with very few complaints. They've got a kind of extra padding, so they sit really comfortably on your head. And I've used them for the many different periods of their growth, so it can grow with the child. Puro Sound, big fan.
Very cool. Not a sponsor, folks.
Not yet, but this is how we get there. Now, the night before, extremely important. I already mentioned it with the batteries, but you got to start at 100% charge on every single item. iPads, iPhones, headphones. If you're bringing a video game system, Nintendo Switch or other video games, the external batteries themselves. And yes, listen, I'm not saying they got to be on the iPad every single second. I would recommend charge up a book light or 2 and have it available, and we're going to talk about
2 is very ambitious. 2 is very ambitious.
Well, I'm talking about for 2 children.
Yeah. Oh, nobody's book lights are running out of batteries mid-flight because they're reading too much.
Again, 6-year-old Kiernan was a very impressive
Yeah.
young lad. So personally, I pack all those fully charged devices and batteries and wires. I put them all in a separate bag in my carry-on so that I have every piece of kind of entertainment, power, and charge in one place. Found that to be very useful on my Alaska flight. That's a key organizing tip I want you to take home. Now, toys. You've already heard I don't like loud toys. I would recommend that you really need to bring new toys. Yes, favorite toys from home might add some comfort, but the truth is, you should be bringing things that are going to be new and exciting and are going to maintain that level of excitement, that interest for a substantial period of time. Whereas you bring their favorite little Lego from home, they've seen it 100 times. They've played with it at home. Also, Lego is a disastrous choice because that thing falls apart. You lose one little piece and it falls under a passenger seat. You're never getting that little piece back. So you got to choose new, exciting toys. One master tip I would say is when you go to a birthday party and they get a loot bag and it has all those super annoying, like stupid toys in there that all cost, 50 cents. Secret those away. The kid will forget by the next day. Put them away in a closet, put them away in a travel specific place. And then when you're on the plane, you unveil, look, brand new rubber finger puppets. I'm telling you, you'd be shocked by what a great reaction that gets.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Novelty.
The other thing is, and this as a marketing professional, not a bad idea to plan far in advance what these new exciting toys are going to be. Maybe set, an action figure that you picked up, and then you start making sure you kind of leave out a little brochure about it a week or two in advance of the trip, or you talk it up, or you see another kid. Wow, that looks like a cool toy.
Do action figures have brochures?
Around Christmas time, you still get the Toys R Us brochure.
I guess.
Right?
Do you? I don't.
No, I don't think so.
I like the idea that Charlie's getting direct mail, like toy mail.
But I'm just saying, try to build the excitement, play it up, get them.
That's clever.
Get them hyped up so that when with the big reveal on the plane, then you're going to get the most bang for your buck, and also
show them on YouTube and be like, God, look at how happy kids are with this toy. Too bad you don't have one, and then surprise them on the plane with it.
Well, and by the way, the other thing that's nice about that is it puts you more in control of the size of the toy, because I would recommend more smaller toys than fewer large toys. Obviously, it's annoying to travel with anything large, but something like an action figure, I think, is perfect for a plane surprise toy, because you could pack 5 of those and it's great. It doesn't take up much room at all.
That's terrific.
Now, I will say, pro tip for anyone with multiple children, have to have equal amount of surprise toys or books for each child. If there is a 1 book, 1 toy difference, you're dead. You are just begging for trouble. So equal number.
So like you can't show your obvious favorites at that point. You've just got to play it.
No, and
cool.
Honestly, most of parenthood is trying to hide your obvious favorites, but it's especially in stark relief in this stressful situation. Now, books. You definitely should bring some books, but don't kid yourself that your kid's going to be like the most amazing reader, like sit for 6 hours when they've never sat for 6 hours before. What I recommend is fewer books, but long, browsable books. You don't want to bring 50 books, and each book you can read in 20 minutes, because you're going to, first of all, it's way too heavy to bring. Books are very heavy, and children's books don't translate as well to the Kindle format. So for example, with our children, I bought a big old Busy Town book, because those books are huge and they're endless things to look at and discuss, and tons of different stories and characters. That was Penelope's. Charlie had a Star Wars encyclopedia. I love a children's encyclopedia. Talk about endless things to discuss, to point out, to you put it down, you revisit it in between videos.
Wait, so who are they discussing it with?
Me, they can discuss. I mean, I do talk to the children. I know most of this has been about sequestering them, but I'm good with taking a break and
but don't talk with them like early on in the flight, or they'll get the idea they're going to talk to you the whole time.
Okay, an excellent point. An excellent point. See, you're starting to get in the groove here. And God, I can see we may need to do a part 2 on this. 'Cause all we've gotten to is the initial leg of travel. Okay, activities. So if your child is like mine, they may now Charlie could watch videos endlessly. So we could put him on a 10-hour flight. He'd watch it top to bottom. Penny, 3.5. It loses attention to videos after an hour or two. So what you have to do is you have to create a period of time where they're actually doing some sort of activity before you reset back into the videos. So for me, that's sticker books, mazes, word searches. Again, these are kind of quieter games. This isn't a vocal I spy sort of game like you're saying, but it gets their brain working. They can get some marker on their finger, and it's almost like a little art and craft for them.
Love that.
And just like I recommended lifting all restrictions on screen time during travel, I also recommend this with snacks. Now, don't go too overboard because you don't want them to get sick or get a stomachache. That would be disastrous. But I think that for all the sugar stuff that you restrict at home, let it up. They don't have to be eating apples on the plane. Personally, I used cereals and Teddy Grahams. Teddy Grahams were a huge hit on the Alaska trip because, again, you can kind of divvy them out. It's not like you're handing them a candy bar. Couple Teddy Grahams here. Give it a little rest period, couple Teddy Grahams there. It's all about drawing out. It's about extending that time to meltdown. Every move you make needs to be about adding.
The TTM.
Exactly, TTM. See, you're getting it. And by the way, TTM, I hope, is going to become the new 3 Ps of the podcast.
Totally.
Okay, my third tip is if you followed every direction that I just gave you on the initial trip, do not make the mistake. Do not make the mistake. Do not make the mistake, Ryan, of thinking that you can stick to that same TTM plan for the return trip from your destination. You can't introduce those new toys that you already introduced on the way over, on the way back, because now it's a week later, it's 2 weeks later. Those things are old news. So that means when you're back at your house initially, you've got to pack surprises, books, toys, snacks for the return trip that are different and recreate that whole experience I just took you through.
Or can't you do some fun shopping while you're there? Can you see a book at a park or thing? You can say, hey, yeah.
Honestly, who's leading the episode now? Me or you? I mean, excellent. Yes. Make a point of bringing them to a bookstore, making a point of bringing them to a toy store. Do it later in the trip so that these can merge into the actual travel transportation ride so that they're not tired of it by the time that you actually are introducing it. And also, do use your editorial judgment. A lot of kids think a toy or a book is fun in the instance in the store, but you got to guide them to things that meet the other criteria that I set out for toys and books.
Love it.
Now, and again, I'm sorry so much of this is about the actual travel process itself, but this is one of the hardest parts with kids. You should have a break glass in case of emergency kit. This means if the kid spits up, the kid poops, the kid pees, it trips and starts to bleed because they skinned their knee. You need to have basic first aid, Band-Aids. You need to have a total change of clothes. It can be a smock, it can be pajamas, anything that's going to keep them calm, but you must have it. You have to be prepared for those horrible situations that all parents know happen with a lot of frequency. So when I said backups to the backups, I'm going to a third. You need backups of the backups of the backups. And this is where go for the junkiest food on earth. If you know your kid is nuts for peanut butter cups, okay, you don't need to have that in your first snack bag. Put it in your break glass in case of emergency, because all parents know that there is a certain something that your kid is so addicted to that's so bad for them that you deny them all the time, that if they're in the middle of a tantrum and you whip out a Reese's peanut butter cup, it's all going to calm down.
No.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Every kid has something like that. And so put that in your
I wonder what mine was. I'm going to ask my mom what my her break glass emergency snack.
I mean, knowing you is probably a cigarette, right?
glass of red wine, always calm me down, you know.
Now, a fifth tip that I have, and again, I think parents who take that attitude that like we should all be thanking them, they're not going to like this. But personally, I apologize to people all the time. I do it vocally by saying, I'm so sorry. I don't care if my kid just like taps you with his elbow. I'm so sorry. It's showing that you understand that you are bringing a time bomb onto the transportation or onto the tour or into the hotel. You have to be working at all times to build sympathy with people. And if you are lucky enough to have a cute kid, and I have two cute kids, if you're lucky enough to have a cute kid, you actually do get a lot of goodwill built in. There's no question that people are kinder about an adorable child. And so what you can do if you feel that you're approaching the time to meltdown, or if you just know you've overextended and a meltdown is coming, what you should do is you should aim the child at people who look like they're more likely to be sympathetic to you. Now, I know personally, I get constant good dad looks when I'm holding Penelope because she got kind of these big blue eyes. And especially if if I aim her at more like grandmotherly sort of folks, I know that if things start to go awry, that person's going to be an ally in that battle situation.
Gotcha. I see the strategy here. I like it. I like it.
Ryan, we often reference that for a trip, I'm a real box checker. I like to have a lot of sites that I want to see. I'm not a go with the flow sort of travel person, but when it comes to traveling with kids, I think that you just have to be. So that should guide your choice of destination. I do think, listen, I'm not saying you can't go to museums. I'm not saying that you can't go to theater, but I do think that you have to be realistic about what your kid can do and what they can't. So for example, if you want to go to a Broadway musical, you can't bring a 2-year-old in there with you. So maybe you and your partner or somebody you're visiting, people that you know in the town, if it's really important for you to do that thing, then you have to arrange for childcare in that time. So I know when we went to Alaska,
and don't some hotels help you with childcare, or is that like a red flag situation?
That's not, in my experience, there's not a ton of hotels that have like a childcare scenario. However, I will say that's one of the upsides of going on something like a cruise ship.
Ships do it.
Yeah.
Or like resorts do too.
But for all of the red flags I'm raising about children, to be honest, Catherine and I didn't even use the childcare on the cruise ship. We wanted the kids with us. You know why? Because we followed these rules, and it really made for a great and pleasant trip. So I'm hoping, here's where I'm trying to turn from the negative to the positive. I'm trying to help you frame a trip that you're gonna enjoy your time with the kids. And so I would say 2 things a day that you think you can hit, but don't overextend yourself. If I'm traveling alone, I can do 6, 7, 10 sites a day, but with a kid, that's just not going to happen. So pick only the most important and know what you're willing to put on ice if they need to take a nap, if they need to change, if they eat really slowly at a restaurant. Sometimes that happens. You bring them out to a restaurant, you think it's going to be 45 minutes. Yeah. They're eating for 2 hours, like one piece of toast. It's insane, but you just have to keep that flexibility in your schedule.
You know how long it would take to eat the full Puro menu if you ate that slowly? 7 hours, 9 hours, who knows?
That's why they put the box on the reservation list. Are you over 16? So you can have a few boxes to check, but don't try to overpack your schedule. I think it's really unrealistic. Now, for actual destinations, I have to say, I don't think anything in my life has ever made me a bigger advocate for Airbnb than having children. Airbnbs, it is such a gift to people in our age because it gives you room and flexibility and a kitchen and the ability to have separate bedrooms that are connected. If you ever tried to book a hotel with 2 adjacent rooms that actually have a door between them, that's not like a very common format anymore.
Yeah, I noticed that gets called out on hotels.com a lot. I'm like, who cares about that? And that makes sense.
Well, this is why Airbnbs, VRBO, I'm all about it. We've stayed at tens of Airbnbs with the kids, and we get places where they can each have their own bedroom. Sometimes there's even like a separate bathroom. We try to get places with bathtubs so that they don't have to take a shower because they don't like taking showers. All these things that you never think about when you're traveling without children. Oh no, I mean,
Who doesn't like
especially
taking showers?
no, kid, you didn't take a shower when you were 3 years old, Ryan.
Probably not when I was 3, but I showered at some
No,
point, right?
when you're 3, you perceive it as little watery knives coming down
Oh
in your skin.
wow.
They freak out. They
Oh, when
freak
you're
out.
when you're 43, it's like the highlight of your day.
Oh my God, are you kidding? I yearn for showers. If I could, when I was in college, I used to take 2 showers a day. It was heaven.
You're so clean. People don't know that about you. He's very clean.
I think people know that about me. The other thing is that's nice about this Airbnb and really about the sharing economy in general is I have found that it's much easier today to actually get baby equipment so that you don't have to haul it all over the place. Because if you're bringing a car seat and a stroller and a substantial stuffed animal and a baby monitor, I mean, you have so much luggage that it's just like, how are you going to get anywhere? There's a website called babyquip.com, BABYQUIP. It's like baby equipment. And this is basically a sharing service where people can say, I've got an extra pack and play. I've got an extra stroller. And if you pay a small daily amount, you can have it for your trip here. So I would recommend that above lugging all that stuff around.
And that's like a sharing economy app. That's wild. That's a good idea.
It's a great idea. It's another marketplace. And frankly, I know when you have kids, they grow so fast that you end up with all this very little used equipment that has many years of life beyond it that you might as well put on this service because it's helpful to families that are traveling and it's not wasteful.
And I've also noticed that Airbnb, you can select things like that too, right? Like crib and all this stuff. So some houses are more prepared.
And unlike the childcare point you made, if you're staying in a hotel or if you're staying on a cruise ship, that actually, very often they will have pack and plays that you can request to be in your room beforehand. I did that with the Royal Caribbean boat about a week before we went. And sure enough, in our room was a pack and play. That saved probably a 10-pound piece of luggage that I would have had to check and track all the way through the journey.
No idea what a pack and play is. So I'm just going to request it next time I'm in a hotel and see what happens.
It's like a little jail for children. It's like one of those cribs that sits on the floor.
Oh, to be checking in. They're like, in the pack and play is there, sir. Is there a child with you? I'm like, oh no. No,
now,
not.
There was something I didn't mention to pack, but I know it, at least in my children's routine, is very important, which is a sound machine. Each of them, it helps to soothe them when they're in a new environment. Kids are very routine oriented. Putting on a sound machine, especially if you've acclimated that for them at home, it helps if you're staying at a place that has street noise. We've all stayed at hotel rooms where, oh God, you're near the elevator, you can hear it ding, or you're in an Airbnb and you're on a busy road, or there's a fire station right across the street. A noise machine can help alleviate all of that stress. And personally, I have found myself jerry-rigging a lot of curtains to try to make them blackout. Because, like, if you're traveling in the middle of the summer, especially if you're somewhere quite far north, and the sun's going to start shining in at 4 a.m., you're not above using painter's tape to put a ripped apart garbage bag over a window to get that kid to sleep, because sleep always leads to a better day of traveling.
Wow, man, this seems like so much work.
It's a lot of work. All right,
I can barely get myself on that plane.
I'm gonna wrap it up with one final tip here. And again, I do think that there's probably a second episode in this. And I would love, you know what? Here's a call. How about this? If you have traveled with children, maybe you really support something I've said, or maybe you've tried something different that I haven't thought of. Write it in. outofofficepod@gmail.com. Throw, traveling with kids up in the subject line just so I make sure I can see it. And we'll come back and share them on a future episode. That'll be exciting.
Yeah, fantastic.
So here's my final one. If you have kids, I highly recommend consider picking a destination. Maybe it's a place that's a 2-hour drive away. Maybe it's a place that's close to relatives that you visit a couple of times a year. Or maybe it's a flight away, but it's a place that you and your partner or your family enjoy. And make it a kind of a regular destination. Go there once a year, twice a year if you're able to. And what I have found with my kids is that they start to anticipate and look forward to, like, the example I'm thinking of is when we visit 2 hours south of where I live in Boston to New Haven. We always stay in the same Airbnb. That it's kind of near the Yale campus. It's perfectly set up for us. It's got everything is just as it should be. We stay there when we go for holidays to visit the family. Every summer we go for like a couple days at the Connecticut shore. We stay there, and the kids know like their favorite bakery. They know one night we're going to get pizza. They know the bookshop that we're going to go to. So kind of all the stuff that I've talked about, they start to look up, and now they're saying to me, "Hey, when can we go to New Haven? When can we go to New Haven?" It's such a nice feeling to have a travel destination that your kids are excited for. You're not trying to convince them, no, Alaska is going to be fun. You'll see.
Yeah, no, and to get them excited about New Haven is a real.
New Haven's a great city. All right, Ryan. Well, this was a longer episodes, but as you can tell, I have a lot of thought into it, and I can't wait to get more hot tips from the listenership. But I think it's time for the last stop.
Last stop.
Segregation in the day, integration at night.
When segregation was the law, one mysterious black club owner had his own rules.
We didn't worry about what went on outside. It was like stepping in another world.
Inside Charlie's place, black and white people danced together. But not everyone was happy about it.
You saw the KKK?
Yeah, they was dressed up in their uniform.
The KKK set out to raid Charlie, take him away from here.
Charlie was an example of power. They had to crush him.
From Atlas Obscura, Rococo Punch, and Visit Myrtle Beach comes Charlie's Place, a story that was nearly lost to time. Until now. Listen to Charlie's Place on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last stop on this train. Everyone, please leave the train.
Well, Ryan, we're here in the last segment of the show. It's the final segment of the show. That's why we call it the final stop. I mean, the last stop. And that's because this is where you and I come together. It's your favorite segment. It's my favorite segment. It's popularly known as the people segment. And the reason is that because the people, all of us come here together to share. It's sort of a communal space because you and I, we leave our worries at the door, Buster Brown, and we bring something that we share. And it could be anything. It could be a story, could be a tale. I guess that's similar to a story, maybe a little longer. Could be a yarn. It could be a piece of equipment review. It could be a tip or an article. Could be an experience you've had, but must check one box. It must inspire the spirit of wanderlust within us, even during the workaday week. So, Ryan, I'm going to ask you, as I ask you every episode, do you have a last stop this week?
I do, Kiernan. I have been waiting for this new book by Greg Grandin to come out, and he's a Pulitzer Prize winning historian, and he has this new book called América, which is a one-volume history of both.
Wait, is
the
it
Americas.
America? Is it America twice?
It's America, América,
America. Great.
See, yes. Nice. So it's a history of the New World. Is sort of holistic view of in his mind, we sort of evolved off each other as cultures and how we played together over the 500 years that the book's going to cover. So I'm super excited to read it, and I'm hopefully it talks about Bolivar. It talks about the Mexican Revolution and Mexican independence. It talks about the U.S. It talks about what the U.S. Early U.S. founders sort of thought about our Southern friends. And so it's going to be really entertaining and fun to read. And I'm excited to be lugging this around for the next month or so, Kiernan. And a link is in the show notes to América. Did you bring a last stop this week?
I did, of course, Ryan. We both went for books this week. And guess what? My last stop is even going to take a turn, and it's going to bring us right into what's on the next episode. It's artful.
I don't know if that's the last stop or if that's just what's on the next episode.
It's both. It's both, because I'm so excited that I'm making it into the next episode. So there's a book out. And interestingly, you're all going to be real jealous about this one. This is a book that's not available in America yet. Some of us have travel connections for being a travel influencer. There's a book called Fiesta. Now, you, Ryan, being
That means
a master.
party.
Very good. And Fiesta is by a gentleman named Daniel Stables. And what it is, he traveled the world to experience all different types of festivals and carnivals, parties, if you will. And he's got this great, curious mind. He's got a good feel for history and sort of the culture that he's bringing himself into. He kind of goes for the full cultural analysis of why this festival fits with these particular people in this particular place, and just really nice writing. He's got good structure that I like, as somebody who likes frameworks. He kind of classifies festivals into 11 different types. And I don't want to blow it, because the beautiful thing is we're going to have an interview with Daniel Stables on the next episode. And so listen, what are international borders? If you're really desperate to find this book, you're going to be able to find a way. I will talk to him about how to get Fiesta in your hands.
You can get it on Amazon. You can order it on Amazon Europe. I've done that many times to get a little.
But you're going to have it shipped.
Peek. You're going to have to pay it. It's going to cost you a little bit if you're going to, or get it on your Kindle, maybe. I don't know. There's got to be a way.
I almost saved this for its January publication date in the US, but to be honest, I like this book so much. I want to talk to Daniel so much that we just can't wait. So next episode, Daniel Stables teaching us how to party, Ryan.
All right. Well, until then, I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Kiernan Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
This seat taken.
You think we're going to take over for Colbert?
There will be no taking over for Colbert. R.I.P.
Oh,